Hey, what's up, friends? You got Gypsy back here today for ITL semi-finals. We got Aki versus EricTs. Now, unfortunately, I was supposed to be here recording with my man Trevor, the GOAT, but unfortunately, I don't know, we couldn't get the call working, so I'm going to be recording this by myself. I'm going to give them the okay now, and they're going to start. Yeah. So, yep. Alright. This is interesting. I know Aki's team. And because Aki is my boy, I'm gonna switch it over. Obviously, Eric's a great guy too, but you know, I'm on Aki's. I want to have Aki's perspective on this match. Now, I know Aki's team, and it's pretty solid. We discussed it a little bit leading up to the match, and he's built a really solid team in my opinion. Eric, I don't know anything about his team though, but obviously he has the Z McGinner, and we did see McGinner clean up his opponent in the playoffs, Tyler, and he really brought the game back with a late game McGinnis sweep. So it's going to be interesting to see how he uses that in this game. But Eric gets the lead matchup correct. He leads with Salazzle as Aki leads off with his Gross. Now, Gross is Aki's only rocker, so perhaps Eric led with Salazzle trying to prevent the early rocks, which does actually hinder his team a little bit, weakening Salazzle and SLGO considerably. But he's just going to fire off a Toxic aimed at the AV Torn. That's a really good turn 1 play by Eric. That's going to weaken this thing to make it an easier time for McGinner and Laddie later on in the game. This is indeed an Assault Vest Torn. So Eric getting that early game momentum, but it was also a pretty safe play from Aki. He can knock off or just U-turn this following turn, scouting items and getting momentum back if Eric decides to switch out. And honestly, looking at Aki's team, I see this Corrosion Toxic Salazzle as a pretty big threat, being able to take on stuff like the Venusaur with Toxic. Now Eric decides to Nasty Plot here. I don't really agree with that play, honestly, because in the face of Torn, who's probably AV, you're not going to be able to OHKO it anywhere at +2, and he loses his Salazzle, so I don't agree with that play at all. He had a Bronzong in the back, and that Salazzle would have been really useful for weakening stuff like Finny or just OHKOing it, as well as Toxicking Venusaur. So very questionable play, turn 2 by Eric after getting off to a pretty good start. But Aki punishes those kind of plays, so we see that here. That really, I think, will come back to bite Eric, because having Salazzle around for late game could have been really important. But we'll see. He does still have McGinner in the back. He does have this really solid, stout defensive check to Torn in the form of Bronzong, so not sure why he didn't just switch out into that. Not trying to rip on Eric, but yeah, I just don't agree with that series of plays. He's going to get up his rocks here, which is going to be pretty big, because now Torn's going to be taking that chip plus the poison. Venu's going to be taking that 12 every time it comes in, which it never likes to do. As far as I remember, the Finny doesn't have defog on this team, I believe. I think it is a Carmine. I'll pull up Aki's team actually, confirm that. But we see Aki goes for rocks here himself, which is, as I said, going to be really nice for Aki, whittling down Eric's team. But now the Crocodile is inside, and yeah, this is a pretty big threat to Aki's team, although he does have the High Dragon, which can switch in chew any hit, barring like a superpower. He's just going to knock here, knocking off the Papa Berry, and Meteor Mash is going to do a solid chunk. But we see lefties on this Crook, so that's interesting. This could be more of a bulkier Crook, designed at sticking around, in the mid game with that lefties recovery. But Aki gets the nice mash boost there. I know for a fact Aki's Hitmonlee is a really heat Hitmonlee set. It's a nice unburdened set, which can put in a ton of work versus what Eric's brought today. He's got knockoff. He's like adamant with knockoff. I think high jump kick and coverage for Aki's team. Plus, I think he has sub on his set. I'll just pull up his team and confirm that. I think there were some changes with the Lee set, so I'm just not 100% certain on that. But yeah, it got a very good matchup, especially versus what Eric has decided to bring, and the fact that he sacked off Salazzle early game gives Hitmonlee a nicer time. So Hitmonlee is actually it's a Misty Seed Hitmonlee, so in conjunction with Finny's Misty Terrain, he can get its unburdened boost with ease, similar to Hawlucha. So that's going to be really solid. It's actually a reversal, not a high jump kick set. It's got a sub bulk up knockoff, so this is a pretty big threat to to Eric's team. Sub obviously has some nice synergy with reversal, being able to sub down. And yeah, we see it's now a 5-5 game with Crocodile taking out the Metagross. They've both got rocks up, which definitely benefits them both. Although Aki only has one rocks resist, whereas Eric has Bronzong, Nagina, and Grook. So we might see rocks impact Aki's side a bit more, although Selgor is going to be taking a lot of chip every time it comes in. If this is a spike to Selgor, which we have seen Eric run, in fact he ran that last week to aid Nagina's setup in the late game, he might opt to start laying out those spikes, which would help Nagina sweep up late game. Looking at Aki's team, losing Gross means that Nagina is a bit more of a threat, although he's a Heat Wave Assault Vest Taunt, so that will be able to chew certain hits from the Nagina quite nicely, unless he's like Z Ice Beam or Z T-Bolt. But honestly, Z Flash Cannon is probably nicer in this matchup, being able to really hurt both the Finny, the Hydra, the Taunt, and the Venu. So we'll see what Eric's cooked up for this game. Aki decides to bring in his Venusaur here, which is pretty fast, honestly. It's a pretty fast Spadef Venu, and it does have knockoff, which he does reveal here, as Eric is going to show the Culver Berry. So now that the Culver Berry's popped, knockoffs are going to be doing a decent chunk to this Bronzong, but we could see Aki switch out here into the Hydreigon in fear of catching a Psychic, which would, do a decent chunk to this Venu, at least 30%, which he's probably not going to want to take, as he does choose to bring in his Hydreigon. We're going to see Eric just go for the Zen here, so quite a predictable play on his part. Aki does take advantage of that. Eric types good play into the chat. I think it was quite an obvious play on Aki's part to switch out there into Hydra, but it was a good play nonetheless, as he did avoid taking that chip on Venu. So Venu's already taking some entry hazard chip. He's at 87, and after rocks he's going to be looking at about 75%. So he's going to be in range of stuff like Psychic from Laddie, Psyshock from Laddie, but everything else on Eric's team doesn't really threaten it, as we see Aki make the prediction of Earth powering the Nagina here. Nagina does reveal the Shuka, so this is very good prep by Eric, but Aki has shown that he has the prep of his own with the Earth power, and yeah, he's not afraid to show it off. I know for a fact this Hydreigon is ground EMZ, so if the Nagina tries to stay in here, he will lose his Nagina. I don't think it's in Eric's best interest not to scout for that. This is one of Aki's Z-move mons. He does have a Bronzong in the back who he can scout for the Earth Power with. He could also switch out into a Selgor here, making the offensive switch. He would resist the Earth Power, and the chances of this Hydreigon packing both Earth Power and Flamethrower is pretty low in my opinion, because he does have Dark Pulse, stab Dark Pulse to hit the Bronzong, that would be levitating to dodge the Earth Power, so I don't really see him having both Earth Power and Flamethrower. I know for a fact he actually is just Dark Pulse, Earth Power, Roost, Taunt on this set, so if Eric wants to get back into this game, he needs to preserve his Nagina. He needs to make the switch out into a Selgor, get that offensive momentum back. Aki's not going to Dark Pulse or Draco here, and bringing in a Selgor would allow him to Bug Buzz and scare out this Hydreigon. And honestly, with Torn being toxic, nothing really wants to switch in and take a Bug Buzz, barring maybe the Finny. And weakening that would be nice for Eric's team, but Eric may also just stay in here and lose his Nagina to the Z Earth Power. So we'll see if he plays around the Z Hydra. So something about Aki's team, Z Hydra and Z Torn, both really solid Z move users. Torn is probably more immediately threatening because you see Z Sky Strike on that, Z Fly pretty commonly, and Torn has some pretty solid coverage. Whereas Hydras often run with like a Life Orb or like a Plate or a Lefty set or a Scarf or Specs. You don't really see it too much, as Aki does reveal the Earth Power. So this is what I was saying. Eric really did need to make the offensive switch out there into the Selgor to scout for that. Not only would he have lived because of his typing, he would have been able to scare it out offensively the next turn. This is looking pretty bleak for Eric. But from Aki's perspective, it's going well. He's playing his team just the way he needs to play it, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this endgame unfolds. Like I mentioned, that Hitmonlee is a massive threat, and yeah, there's not really too much on Eric's team that could stop it. So this is the mon he should have gone out to that turn, and we're going to see if he does indeed have some way of punishing the Taunt or the likely Tackle Finny that will come in here. He could have Sludge Bomb on this for sure, but it's not going to do a ton to Finny. I mean, Finny is so fat, so yeah, it's not really going to do too much. Looking at Eric's Laddie, it could potentially be a Scarfed Laddie here to revenge a Scarfed Hydra, as well as potentially tricking something like a Taunt or a Finny. We've seen the lefties on the Crook. Bronzong was Kolba, so yeah, this and Laddie are the only real mons we don't know. We haven't got any information on from Eric's team, and yeah, this is looking pretty rough for Eric, honestly. Aki now has solid responses to his remaining mons. I really would have thought Eric would have prioritized keeping Salazzle and Magina around, as they were probably the biggest threats to Aki's team. But he's just going to start stacking up spikes. So, very offensive play by Eric. This is what I mean. He does need to make these sort of plays to get back into the game, and spikes will definitely be nice for chipping down the Venu. So, if his sort of plan is to threaten Aki's team with Crocodile, that's going to help having that spike up. This Finny though, this Finny is actually it is a defog variant after all. I think I said it was a Carmine variant earlier, but it's actually a Wakan. Yeah, it's a very defensive Wakan defog variant. So we are probably going to see the defog here from Aki's side. Honestly, like, rocks on Eric's side don't do a ton for Aki because, as I mentioned, like, this Aselgor's already taken the chip. Its Satch has been broken, and we see Bronzong and Crocodile both resisting Stealth Rock. So it's not too bad. Aki losing rocks, he can always take that trade. He removes the spike, and this Aselgor may be tempted to switch out here or just fire for Sludge Bomb. We will see. Here's Wakan on this Finny. So if Latios is something like a ZT Bolt set, which it could be, we're gonna see Finny chew that up with the Wakan berry. But he's gonna switch out into Venusaur here, I guess, scouting for the Sludge Bomb or something. This is not one of Eric's move uses, so it wasn't Acid Downpour. So Aki chooses not to defog there, which is kind of surprising, but perhaps he wanted to kick rocks up to ensure Laddie was in range of knockoff from the Hitmonlee. So there's always a reason. There's always a reason behind these kind of plays. Eric does get the Bug Buzz Spadef drop on the Venu, which is definitely unfortunate, as we see the Encore come out here. So very nice play by Eric. He's got the Encore Bug Buzz spikes on this Aselgor, as well as Sludge Bomb. So we could see a Sludge Bomb come out here, but he does choose to lay up another round of spikes. Keeping this Aselgor will be important because it does threaten the Finny and the Hydra, which are pretty big threats to Eric's team. We could see him go into Bronzong here as a sack on the either Knock or Heat Wave. Because he does have Heat Wave on this Taunt, I'm expecting Aki to just fire that off now. But I don't think going out into Laddie is a smart play. Yeah, Aki just types in the chat he wished he had defogged, although he was fearing Final Gambit. So that's understandable. Finny is a pretty big win con in this game, being able to check Crocodile and chew a hit from Laddie. So not wanting to risk Eric taking him out with a Final Gambit. I can understand why Aki made the play of switching out to Venu. Venu obviously checks Croc, but he does have Hydra to check Crocodile, and honestly Venu loses to stuff like Laddie and probably can't kill Bronzong from the range of health attack with knockoff. So understandable play by Aki there. Eric does get another spike up, which is going to be important for Venu, and chipping down the Hitmonlee and the Finny. If he is Psychic Laddie over Psy Shock, he will appreciate the spikes being up because Lee has very high Spadef. So for such an offensive mon, it's got pretty solid Spadef. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting endgame for sure. We see the Heat Wave come out, so that's what I said earlier. That was his play. Although I don't feel like Eric's play was ever going to Laddie there, because no reason to potentially lose your item to a knockoff. Sacking this Bronzong, which honestly wasn't doing a ton this game, was the play in my opinion. And we're going to see if Eric has something like Trick Room or Explosion, that could be really big here. I don't think going for Zen is the play, because he's shown Hydra to be a pretty solid switch into this Bronzong, as we do see him just gyro ball here. So now we'll more than likely see Aki defog here, I would say, with Finny, and that will obviously allow his other mons to be able to switch in a lot easier in this endgame. He's actually got Moonblast, Nature's Madness, Defog, Haze on this Finny set, so Moonblast will probably be able to take out this Bronzong, but in the off chance that he somehow lives, he may be able to get, I was going to say he may be able to kill him there with 2 Gyros, but he is just going to show that he's willing to spam rocks, which I think is definitely the play by Eric. He's going to allow the Finny to take him out with Moonblast if he does decide to stay in, which he does, and he will just be able to spam rocks, keeping them up. He'll now be able to bring in something like a Selgor with the sludge bomb to take it out, or just bring in the Latios here, which might be the play to just click Psychic. We've seen that the Hydra is not a Scarf set, so he might feel comfortable in just bringing Lati in here and starting to fire off attacks. If he's a bulky Latios, honestly, that might be a big threat for Aki. Again, I don't know Eric's team, but if he's like a bulkier Calm mindset with some sort of Z move and Roost, he will be able to 1v1 the Taunt, especially now that he is Toxic, so that's definitely something to think about. Although, because Misty terrain is up, if he does sack off the Finny and bring in the Hitmonlee, we're going to see his Misty Seed pop. I do expect Aki to either sack off the Finny this turn to the Sludge Bomb, allowing Hitmonlee to get its own burden boost, or he may choose to switch out into something like Torn here. And yeah, Torn would probably be too carried by Sludge Bomb after Rocks and Toxic though, so that's something to consider. He's going to want to keep his Finny around though to have the terrain up for late game Hitmonlee. But yeah, this Laddie set is still a potential win con in the back for Eric. If it's not something like a Calm Mind Roost set, or some sort of Roost set to take on the Torn, I don't really see Eric taking this home. But the fact that we did see Shukaberry on Nagina implies this could definitely be a Z Latios, so yeah, this is definitely an exciting game. It's not over yet. Yeah, it's definitely not over yet, but we do see him take him out with a Sludge Bomb there. I don't think that crit mattered. Sludge Bomb was probably doing a ton, but yeah, he didn't have a ton of Spit F on Finny, so I think I don't know if that crit actually mattered, but Eric says my calcs say that probs didn't matter, but I don't know for sure. Not too sure about that. Aki obviously would have run the calcs, and yeah, we'll see. But either way, Finny is gone, so either he brings in his Hitmonlee now and starts to set up, or he runs the risk of not being able to bring it in later, and obviously having his terrain pop his seed. So he does indeed choose to bring it in, and we will see if Eric decides to stay in here. So he could fear like the Stone Edge or something and go into Crocodile, and if Aki subs up here, it's kind of game over. Obviously this could be a Kolba or potentially Z-move Laddie, but honestly, like, it's looking kind of bleak for Eric right now. The fact that he brought it in, the only way I can really see him pulling this out is if he does attack here and then on-call the following turn, provided Aki chooses to set up. So if he's like a sticky hold, Selgor knockoff will be weakened, so that's something to consider. But yeah, Aki's best way of hitting this Selgor is with the knockoff, so we'll see how this plays out. It's definitely an exciting endgame. Aki reveals in the chat that didn't actually matter. The Sludge Bomb crit on his Finny, he always died there, so that's always good to see. You don't want some game-changing hacks in an important game like this. That would just be lame. So yeah, Hitmonlee is inside. This is definitely a cool set. We see the bulk up. Will he go for the... I really do think going for Encore there was probably the play from Eric, but he opts not to. Had he encored there, he would have been in a very solid position to win this game, but because he could have brought in Laddie the next turn and forced this Hitmonlee out. But we are going to see Crook come in here and just... in fact, this Hitmonlee might actually not be able to take out Crook with a reversal at neutral from that range of health. It's going to be pretty weak. Depending on the Crook set, we might see a Dragon Tail here, or like a Roar or something, if this is a bulkier Crook, so that'll be interesting to see. He could also go into Latios here, but we will see. He does go for the earthquake, so Hitmonlee is getting weakened down, and this is important because if Eric doesn't consider the fact that this Hitmonlee is probably reversal, he will be really low by the time they finish this exchange, and he will be able to take out this crook. So with the reversal, once he gets low enough. So that's interesting. I think Laddie is probably 2 KO by knockoff though, so even if he does switch out to Laddie now, this Hitmonlee will be able to stub up and knock off twice because he is faster than the Latios is. So yeah, this is a pretty tough spot for Eric. We're going to see him earthquake again, and he's going to Aki's Hitmonlee is, I don't think he has enough HP to sub once more. Actually, he's at 24.8%. I think because he took a round of Rock's chip, he's out of range of being at a 1% sub, but he still should be low enough to take out this Crocodile with a reversal. It will be interesting to see if Eric recognizes that and switches to the Laddie. But honestly, I think Aki has this wrapped up in the bag. I don't think there's a whole lot Eric can do unless his Laddie lives a knockoff, which he could well do. Of course, then he has the Taunt to revenge it though, which is definitely rough for Eric. But if he chooses not to go for knockoff, we could see the Laddie potentially dodge a Hurricane, which would be interesting for sure. If this is for some reason a Scarf Laddie, this game is definitely over because it can't lock itself into a coverage move to beat an AV Taunt as well as a a Venu at full health and a Hydra. So yeah, this is interesting. He does go for the knockoff, and he is indeed a Z move variant. So we see him take him out with the Psychic there. I think that probably should have been how Eric approached this Hitmonlee earlier. He should have just gone out into Laddie and Psychicked because we saw him take so little from a knockoff, so he may have been able to live on it +1, but at the same time, probably switching into Taunt, into Crook, and then going into Laddie would have been his play. Yeah, we'll see how this endgame wraps up. I think Aki's got this in the bag, and yeah, we'll see how Eric is asking Aki in the chat to let him kill Venu. And he has revealed to have Z Psychic, he's saying. But yeah, we'll see about this. I don't think the thing about this endgame is that like Torn doesn't necessarily take him out with a knockoff, but knowing Aki, he will obviously go for the U-turn versus the Laddie into the Hydra, which probably takes him out. Unless Eric has a Roost and he reveals the Roost here. This is going to be Aki's endgame for sure. So yeah, this was definitely a fun semis to watch. I think Eric would have had a much better shot if he'd played his Magina and his Salazzle better in the early game. Toxic King the Torn was definitely a fire play with Salazzle, and he could have Toxic literally every member of Aki's team when Misty Terrain wasn't up. So yeah, I don't agree with sacking that so early, especially when he had such a fantastic Torn response in Bronzong, but that is just the way it goes. So Aki played this well. He definitely brought a fantastic team, in my opinion. We're going to see if he has the Roost, as he does not have the Roost. He has the Draco. So I don't think Eric wanted to, like, even if he had Roost, I don't think he was clicking it because Aki let him kill the Venu. I think he just wanted to show off he had Z Psychic. So we see a nice 1-0 win from Aki versus Eric. Definitely a fun game to watch. There wasn't much, if any, influential hacks I can think. So yeah, lots of fun, good match. Congrats to Aki for moving on to the finals of the ITL. His opponent will either be myself or Sebi, so that will be exciting. And yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a like if you did, and I'll catch you guys next.